Well, happy October. If you live in Arizona like I do, this is the month of the year when the weather usually breaks, meaning the heat, the 100+ days finally go away. The chicks, the women of Scottsdale, their personalities fly north for the winter as the clothes have to come back on, and you can finally go outside without melting into the pavement. So in this video, I wanted to talk about something that has been near and dear to my heart since I was a wee young little Christian homeschooled kid, which is the topic of Harry Potter. So my wife is a huge Harry Potter fan, which means that every single October, in the fall season, the Halloween season, whatever, we have to do a full watch through of every single Harry Potter movie. Now, I had never seen a single Harry Potter movie, not one, until I married my wife, and she made me watch all of them. And as a homeschooled, like I said, a homeschooled Christian kid, I was always under the impression that, it's demonic, it's evil, it teaches the occult. Basically, everything focused on the family talks about.
Through Harry Potter books and audios, children as young as kindergarten age are being introduced to human sacrifice, the sucking of blood from dead animals, and possession by spirit beings. Should parents be concerned that the alluring power behind witchcraft is being made to look innocent and is being targeted towards their children through the Harry Potter phenomenon?
Now, upon watching the movies, I was just kind of confused as to where this belief came from. It was shockingly so. In fact, the first time watching it all the way through, I'm apprehensive for, okay, where's the weird, the magic, the witchcraft? I'm waiting for the bad thing to happen. And I was kind of pleasantly surprised, and I ended up actually really enjoying the movies. So Harry Potter comes out in the late 90s, and Focus on the Family, which is this Christian organization. They have radio shows and now podcasts, and they would do reviews of TV shows and movies and things like that, basically trying to help Christian parents determine what is good media to consume or to allow your kids and your family to consume. Now, when it comes to Harry Potter, of course, they said that, it's a good story, it's an adventure, it's right versus wrong, good versus evil, but, it encourages the occult and it encourages witchcraft, and this is when you saw this explosion in the Christian evangelical world, late 90s, early 2000s, of basically this fear, this widespread panic over how awful, how evil Harry Potter is, and demons and witches are on the rise, and this is bringing occult stuff, and this is introducing it to our kids, and so on and so forth. However, when I watched the Harry Potter movies, the one thing that actually stood out to me the most was how much Christology there was in it, how much Christian allegory you can actually pull out of it. Now, I have some examples I want to walk you guys through, and you tell me what you think, right or wrong, if I'm crazy or not. So starting off with the protagonist, Harry, right? So from his birth, there's the antagonist of the story whose name is Voldemort, right? He is the Satan figure. He's the evil one. He's pure evil, hates everything good, hates everything light, wants to rule the world, right? So he's the Satan of the story. Now, Harry's born, and as a little baby, Voldemort comes and tries to kill the firstborn son of Harry Potter's parents. Sound familiar? And he fails. And Harry has to essentially go live with his aunt and his uncle to hide from the evil one, the Satan figure, the Voldemort, the antagonist. So much like Jesus, Harry was born. They tried to kill him at his birth. He is the firstborn son. He has to go hide in a distant land, or rather just a place where he's not from, to avoid capture or being found. So right off the bat, we're starting off with Christian allegory, but moving on to Harry's personality, his character, okay? He's very, very humble. Even when he discovers that he has these powers that other people don't have, he maintains a humility. He maintains a just a very kind of meek attitude where, hey, that's cool, I can do this, but, we're all great. We've all got stuff that's cool. So not that Jesus ever took that kind of personality. We're like, we can all do this. Jesus was never humble in that sense of saying we're all the same. However, he was meek. And he was humble, to the point of condescending to the form of a man from a god. So now Harry, he's not a god, but he's a very humble guy. He shows grace to everyone. everyone he meets, all kinds of different people, whether it's a troublemaker, the kind of the class clown, or whether it's his friend who's a rule keeper. She's very, very kind of uptight and terse and gotta follow all the rules. He shows grace to all of them. He loves all of them. He's indiscriminate in his affection towards everyone. Much like Jesus, he is kind to the rich young ruler, and he's kind to the leper. Furthermore, Harry's actually very gracious towards his enemies. In one of the movies, he finally meets the guy who sold out his parents to Voldemort, to the bad guy. So his parents were killed by Voldemort, but this is the guy he's finally meeting who sold out his parents, right? Betrayed them, was their friend. He was the Judas Iscariot, let his parents get killed, right? Sold them out. And Harry has the opportunity to either kill this guy or let him be killed by somebody else. So Harry doesn't even have to do the dirty work. He can just stand back and watch this guy get killed. This guy who he hates, because when he finds out that this is the dude that sold his parents out, he's very angry. Can't believe he did this. But instead of letting this guy get murked by his friends, he says, "Hold on. Don't kill him. That's not the right way to do this. We have to take him back to the authorities. We have to process him. We have to make sure justice is done. And I'm not into this street justice. I'm going to make sure that he goes through, the system, as it were." He shows grace even towards his enemies. His enemies that he has no reason to like, have done horrible harm to him and his family. And he says, no, we're going to show grace. We're going to show mercy to this guy, which is, again, very, very much like Jesus. So the prophecy around Harry. So Harry's the chosen one. He's the one that's going to come and defeat evil for the last time. So there's this prophecy surrounding his life. Before his powers are even discovered, he's foretold to be the chosen one, right? Which is, again, so much prophecy surrounding Jesus, the coming Messiah. He's going to defeat death once and for all. Moving forward in the stories here, Harry, he has a very sacrificial life. All throughout the stories, he frequently and constantly puts the good of others, the safety and well-being of others, ahead of his own well-being, to the point of his own life. Quite often, he says, no, I will go in their place. I will risk my life to make sure they're okay. Whether it's something as simple as standing up for a friend to the school bully, or actually laying his life down for a friend, he has absolutely no inhibitions. He's got no hesitancy to do that. Whereas, obviously, we all know Jesus lived the ultimate sacrificial life, went to the cross, died for all of us. Harry does the same, and to the point of actually doing this. At the end of the story, spoiler alert here, Harry actually dies, sacrifices himself so that his friends can live. Now, it doesn't get more Christological than that. Harry actually gives his life up to the darkness, to the enemy, lets himself be killed, could have fought, could have continued the battle, but says, no, you know what? I'm going to go willingly. I'm not going to fight to the end here. I'm going to go willingly so that my friends can survive and they can be okay, which it doesn't get more Christ-like than that. Furthermore, he's resurrected. He dies, goes up to the Dumbledore heaven, right, where he sees the enemy now, in this Dumbledore heaven, where the enemy has actually been defeated. He's shriveled up. He's embarrassing. He's a nothing. And then he's resurrected, and Harry comes back to life. Again, resurrection, it's Jesus. So after he's resurrected, he defeats death once and for all. Death dies. Death is no more. This is like the epitome of a Christological allegory here. I don't see how it gets any more Christ-like than that in a story. So the entire plot of the movie, of all the movies, of all the books, is good versus evil, light versus darkness, and there's one Jesus type, Christ type, if you want to get into typologies, that persists throughout the story, fights evil, and finally ends it by giving up his life to save others, comes back from the grave, and defeats death once and for all. I mean, this is massively Christian allegory. When Harry, I think it's in the movie Deathly Hallows, when he visits his parents' grave, his parents' tombstones, there are two biblical references on the tombstones. One of them is, the last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. And the second reference is, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Again, it's like, could it get more Christian than this? Now, there's a reason for this, and it is that the author J.K. Rowling, she was raised Anglican, and she actually said that the story itself, this is her words, not mine, the story itself was intended to be a form of a Christian allegory. There was a form of biblical representation in the film that she didn't want to be front and center because she didn't want people to lose the story. She didn't want people to know what was going to happen next. She didn't want it to be so obvious, but there was a lot of that influence in her storytelling. So now when you bring it back to why do Christians have such a problem with this, I truly don't understand, especially when other media that Christians have consistently and consumed without a problem, media like Star Wars, media like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or J.R.R. Tolkien's, The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, all of those are either contain exactly the same elements Harry Potter contains, or in the case of Star Wars, are massively pagan and demonic. So again, the way I was raised, me and my brother were huge Star Wars fans, right? And my parents never quite they weren't encouraging Star Wars. They were saying, go be this is great. Like we were just into Star Wars, right? And my parents allowed us to watch the movies and all the stuff. And I don't think, this isn't me coming for Star Wars here, I don't think Star Wars is like deeply problematic. But when we compare the narrative of Star Wars to the narrative of Harry Potter, you got to wonder why one is okay and one's not. Now, again, I want to be careful here. This isn't like a critique of my parents' parenting, right? They were doing the absolute best they could, and they did a fantastic job. And they were reading stuff like Focus on the Family, believing that this is, they're doing their best. Now, this is a critique of stuff like Focus on the Family that I believe misled Christian parents and the Christian evangelical culture at large. So again, comparing these two storylines, these two counterparts, Star Wars and Harry Potter, Star Wars is it's basically it's like Taoism, right? There is no real good, there is no real evil. There's a light side and a dark side, and the light side and the dark side balance each other out. And in fact, if you want to get into the really nerdy Star Wars lore, there's the theology essentially of the Force, which is that there will always be evil, which the bad guys are called the Sith. There will always be them. They will never go away. They can never go away because they balance the light. And now that's Taoism. That's Eastern mysticism, which, don't be mistaken here. George Lucas was not coy in this. Like, he openly has talked about how this is like an Eastern influenced spirituality. The Jedi wear these monk-like robes and they meditate and they try to become one with this great spirituality that's all around them. And they say the Force is in everyone. The Force flows through every living thing in the world and even the non-living things, the inanimate object. That's how you can levitate stuff with the Force, because the Force is in everything and it just responds to one another. So it's like, okay, what is that? That's panentheism, right? It's that there is no single deity. Everything around us is the deity. The deity is among us. We are, and the more you can connect to this deity, the more powerful you can become. How is that not problematic? But Harry Potter is. Now, again, hear me. I don't think Star Wars is problematic. I think the overarching storyline of Star Wars so completely overshadows the Eastern mysticism in it that for children, they're not going to be like meditating and becoming one with the Force. Like they're like, oh, lightsabers are cool, stormtroopers are cool. Like they're not reading into it that much. But it kind of goes the same for Harry Potter, because again, as I was watching it for the first time, I'm looking for like, where's the occult? Where's the weird demonic spirituality, the witchcraft? And I'm like, they use magic. And then on that magic, let's transition here real fast to Tolkien and to C.S. Lewis, who in both of their storylines use magic frequently. I mean, the Lord of the Rings has wizards and witches, and the wizard's the good guy. Gandalf is a wizard, and he's one of the Christ type figures in the story. So Tolkien was a little less allegorical. He's talked about this, how he doesn't have like this direct one-for-one allegory, whereas C.S. Lewis, when he wrote his books, his novels rather, there was very clear, obvious allegory. Like Aslan is Jesus. There's no other Jesus in the story. It's Aslan. But in Tolkien, the Jesus is kind of shared among the different characters. There's not one single character who is like the Jesus figure. But Gandalf, for much of the story, is the Jesus typology in different scenes and different moments. And he's a wizard. Where's the Christian problem with that? Jesus being represented as a wizard, as a male witch who uses magic, and there is no problem with it. To be frank, there is no problem with it. Why? Because it's just storytelling. It's allegory. Magic, in the case of C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, is basically just the supernatural realm, the spiritual world, right? Which does exist. That's the allegory for it. In fact, in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, it was said that Aslan, who's again Jesus, used good magic, and that the White Witch, who was Satan, used bad magic, right? So they were not strangers to using magic as allegory for spirituality and supernatural forces, and neither does Harry Potter, neither does J.K. Rowling. So again, I'm just so confused here. Christian culture, why you've got a problem with Harry Potter, who's one of the most Christological figures in terms of storytelling, but you don't have a problem with Gandalf, you don't have a problem with Aslan, the magic user, you don't have a problem with any of that. I don't get it. I truly don't get it. And why, furthermore, there isn't the same kind of freak out about Star Wars, which is just openly Eastern mysticism, Taoism, pantheism. It's awful, evil garbage. Now, the storytelling is great. Love Star Wars, love Harry Potter, love all of it. I think all of it's great. And I think you guys need to just stop freaking out and stop thinking that the boogeyman is right around the next corner. And if our kids watch this thing, they're going to turn into... No, it's so silly. Look, I was obsessed with Star Wars as a kid. I wore the Jedi. I had my own Jedi costume. I battled with lightsabers. Me and our friends had a little Jedi order with different ranks that we would dub knights, when our new friends joined, and we were freaks about it. And I'm not a Taoist. I'm not a pantheist. Obviously, if you have a very, very impressionable child who takes this stuff and runs with it, and they're like, hey, I want to start casting spells and I want to be magic for like, hold on, you have to explain, like, dude, this is just a story. This is allegory. And see who Harry represents in the story? He represents Jesus. So if you think Harry's awesome, that's who Jesus is. Jesus is awesome. Jesus gave his life for his friends. That's where you have to take a step back and say, guys, this is just a story. This is just storytelling. This is just allegory. So explain allegory to your kids. Don't remove the opportunity for them to learn from the story completely. In addition, it creates this bizarre, and I think awful culture of where we reject everything that's not overtly, expressly Christian. It's like, well, this isn't Christian media. It's not Bible man, so we're not going to consume it. Instead of saying, well, hold on, no, wait, we can accept this and we can redeem this. But I don't even think it's going as far as redeeming something bad for good. I don't think Harry Potter is something that needs to be redeemed. I think it's something that's inherently a good thing. It's inherently Christological allegory. And if we can start seeing that, instead of just reading these plugged in magazine headlines of, oh, it promotes witchcraft and, Wiccans or what. Do any of us know a witch in our lives? Do any of us have people who practice witchcraft? I know it's not like completely uncommon. There are them out there. There's witch talk, right? These TikTok gals who are casting spells. But did any of them get into it because of Harry Potter? Or did they get into it because they were exploring, spirituality, and they got into the demonic side of it because they rejected Christianity? Like Jesus says in John 17:17 that the Holy Spirit's going to sanctify us in the truth, for his word is truth. We have this promise that the Holy Spirit's going to protect us and guide us and show us right from wrong. And if something's evil, it's going to point it out as evil, and we're going to know that. And I'm telling you guys, as like one of the most annoyingly theological people that I know, I'm watching Harry Potter, and I think this is good Christian media. This is good storytelling with a Christian message underneath it that we as Christians can accept and celebrate and enjoy. Okay? Stop being weird about it.